This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Monday, May 20th, 2024. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Biden and former President Trump on the campaign trail over the weekend. I'm John Stolnis, and I'll have the latest coming up.
A New York Congresswoman addresses the Israeli parliament bashing Hamas and President Biden. We'll have that.
The president of Iran among 9 people presumed dead when his helicopter went missing during bad weather. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
A standalone border bill will be debated in the Senate that could impact the 2024 election.
Donald Trump's hush money trial is entering its final stretch as Michael Cohen returns to the stand. Julie Walker, New York.
On Wall Street, the Dow opens above 40,000 for the first time this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Disneyland character and parade performers in California have voted to join a labor union. I'm Haya Panjwani with the latest.
All ahead on America in the Morning. With a little less than 6 months to go before Election Day, the 2 presumptive nominees were out on the campaign trail over the weekend, meeting with voters and shoring up support among their base. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
Invited to historically black Morehouse College to deliver the commencement address and receive an honorary doctorate, President Biden addressing what he says is the plight some black Americans face every day trying to achieve the American dream.
What does it mean to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
Recent polling shows Biden's support among African Americans down from 4 years ago. Some students opposed Biden delivering the address and sat with their backs to him over his handling of the war in Gaza. The protests were respectful and peaceful as Biden hit on themes of faith and manhood in his commencement address. Later, at a campaign event in Detroit, the president defended his economic record.
So far, we've been pretty good. We've had the lowest unemployment rate for a long, long time. We've been in a situation where I've forgiven an awful lot of debt from the folks' college debt.
Meanwhile, Trump was in the Lone Star State receiving an endorsement from the National Rifle Association. And he warns that under a second Biden term, their gun rights will be under siege.
Crooked Joe has a 40-year record of trying to rip firearms out of the hands of law-abiding citizens.
At one point, Trump mused about whether he would be able to secure a third term in office if he's elected in November.
You know, FDR, 16 years. Almost 16 years. He was 4-term. I don't know. Are we going to be considered 3-term or 2-term? You tell me. Ronnie, what do you think? Are we 3-term or 2-term if we win?
Presidents are, of course, not allowed to serve a third term. At a rally in St. Paul, Minnesota on Friday, Trump said there will be one major condition that he once met before he debates President Biden.
I just want to debate this guy, but, you know, and I'm going to demand a drug test, too, by the way. I am. No, I really am. I don't want him coming in like the State of the Union. He was high as a kite.
3 recent national polls by Fox News, Yahoo News, and Morning Consult show a dead heat among registered voters between the two men, although Trump has slightly larger leads in most of the battleground states expected to determine who gets to 270 electoral votes. I'm John Stolnis.
The highest-ranking Republican in the House to visit Israel since the start of the Israel-Hamas war addressed the Knesset, that's the nation's parliament in Tel Aviv over the weekend. Congresswoman Elise Stafanik did not hold back in her support for the Israeli government.
I am here to tell you that it is our duty as Americans that Israel does not stand alone. We must never let Israel stand alone. I am confident in the end that our relationship will not just endure, but emerge stronger than ever before.
She blasted President Biden over his threats to withhold military aid for Israel if it moves into Rafah.
I have been clear at home, and I will be clear here. There is no excuse for an American president to block aid to Israel, aid that was duly passed by the Congress. There is no excuse to ease sanctions on Iran, paying a $6 billion ransom to the world's leading state sponsor of terror, or to dither and hide while our friends fight for their lives. No excuse. Full stop.
Now, the president hasn't gotten in the way of aid to Israel at this point, and in fact, he recently announced plans for a $1 billion arms deal for Israel, but Republicans have criticized the president for the threat alone. The House passed a GOP-led bill to stop the president from halting arms shipments to Israel just last week in a vote. During her address, Stefanik got political, pledging her support for Republican presidential candidate and former President Donald Trump.
For years, I have been a leading proponent and partner to President Trump in his historic support for Israeli independence and security, including moving the U.S. Embassy to its rightful place in Jerusalem, the negotiation of the historic Abraham Accords.
In response to Stefanik's speech, the White House said that Israel is President Biden's closest ally. Those are the top stories of the day, sponsored by Sleep Number. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed for a limited time only at Sleep Number stores or sleepnumber.com. A helicopter carrying the president of Iran crashes. We've got details and the implications when America in the Morning returns after this. We're already into late May. Can you believe that? Things are heating up. Summer approaching. Some areas warmer than others, of course, as those summer temps are just around the corner. Here's Matt Rendy.
Once again, a storm moved out of the Rockies and produced another round of significant severe thunderstorms in the Central Plains with damaging winds, hail, and even some tornadoes. Fortunately, as the system moves farther east today, the impacts will be less through Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and then northward to Wisconsin and Michigan. There can still be a heavy thunderstorm or two, but nothing like that which occurred on Sunday. However, AccuWeather storm warning experts are monitoring another system moving out of the Rockies late tonight into the day Tuesday, where severe storms can get underway in Nebraska early tonight and then reach into Wisconsin by Tuesday morning, with additional significant storms likely during the day Tuesday. Before that system reaches the plains, it will produce several showers through the northern Rockies from Montana into Wyoming, and even a thunderstorm or two farther south in Utah and Colorado. The air behind it will also be chilly enough for some snow in the higher elevations. That cooler weather will also extend into Wyoming and portions of the Dakotas. The rest of the West will be largely dry with a decent amount of sunshine and afternoon temperatures in the 60s and 70s in the north and warming to the 90s in the far south, which is near the historical average. However, the plain states into much of the east will have temperatures well above the historical average with a few exceptions. Portions of Texas and Oklahoma will be well into the 90s and even 100s, with 80s and 90s extending through the rest of the region, and this will continue northeastward into the southern Great Lakes, Tennessee Valley, and northeast. That's the weather across America. It'll be a cool day in Great Falls, Montana, with sun giving way to clouds and a high of 56. Midland, Texas, by contrast, will have plenty of sunshine and a scorcher of an afternoon with a high of 101. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rendy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A helicopter carrying the Iranian president and that nation's foreign minister crashed in the mountains of northern Iran. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details.
State-run media outlets in Iran have reported that the Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, and his foreign minister are confirmed dead when their helicopter crashed in rugged terrain during poor weather and fog south of the Iranian border with Azerbaijan. 10 hours after the aircraft first went missing, Iran's state-run media claimed that Iranian officials made radio contact with two people on board, but released no other details on anyone's condition. And the helicopter's location was not completely determined until 12 hours after it went missing. The Iranian Red Crescent was quoted as saying that when it arrived on the scene of the crash, they found the helicopter had significant damage and was burned, and that, quote, no signs of helicopter's occupants being alive. The Iranian constitution mandates that in the case of the death of the president, the first vice president, that would be Mohammad Makbar, will assume the powers and functions of the president, but only with the approval of the Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who urged his nation to pray. President Joe Biden was briefed by aides on the Iran crash, but administration officials have not learned much more than what's being reported publicly by Iran's state media. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will bring the bipartisan border deal that was negotiated early this year by a group of senators back up on the floor this week for a standalone vote. Lawmakers worked for months to negotiate that legislation, but the bill, which made modifications to parole and asylum provisions, was rejected immediately after its release by almost the entire Senate Republican conference, that at the urging of President Trump over funding for Ukraine. The move to hold another vote on this legislation comes as Senate Democrats try to renew their push on the southern border, which will be a big campaign topic, of course, ahead of the 2024 election. Michael Cohen will return for his fourth day on the witness stand today in the Donald Trump hush money trial in New York City. Correspondent Julie Walker has a preview.
Cohen testifying last week, placing Trump directly at the center of the alleged scheme to stifle negative stories to fend off damage to his 2016 White House bid. Cross-examination of Cohen set to resume, and then the prosecution's rebuttal. Prosecutors say Trump falsified internal business records to cover up hush money payments to two women who said they had sexual encounters with him. Trump denies the encounters ever took place. He's pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts. Julie Walker, New York.
Great week on Wall Street last week. Can we keep up the momentum? We'll have Monday business when America in the Morning returns. Don't go anywhere. The Business Report sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Monday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning with the Dow above 40,000 for the very first time after Friday's record close. It was a record-setting week last week. It was also a winning one for the major averages, which are on pace for their best month since last November. The S&P 500 index opens this morning above 5,300.
You know, the last week or two have shown that the don't overthink it rule still lies with the bulls in terms of giving credit to new highs, which is more bullish on a forward-going basis than worrisome.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Bitcoin broke a 6-week losing streak, hitting $67,000 on Friday. Frontier Airlines says it's getting rid of change fees as it overhauls the pricing. At the budget airline, one of its rivals, Southwest, never charges anyone to change a flight. Cracker Barrel Old Country Store shares tanked on Friday by 13%.
Cracker Barrel is slashing its dividend by around 80% as the chain plans to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into overhauling its restaurants and updating its brand. The company also updated its forecast, saying that it expects earnings next year to be flat or down slightly before increasing in 2026 and 2027.
CNBC's Becky Quick. Boeing shareholders reelected the CEO, Dave Calhoun, to the board of directors, even though he leaves the CEO job at the end of the year. Taylor Swift's UK tour stops estimated to boost the UK economy by almost £1 billion. That's according to a new report from British bank Barclays, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter. This equals about $1.25 billion US.
So, Jessica, stocks had a great week last week, but how about going back even further than that?
Well, you know, it's been a good run. If you have the S&P 500 index fund, say, in a retirement account, it really was a good weekend to take a peek at it. The last 6 months have been really good for investors.
Investors striking gold, so to speak, all over the place. Investors have rarely had it this good. To show you what we've done over the last 6 months, I mean, the S&P's up 17%, as is the Russell, the Dow good for 14%, copper 34%. If you've been invested around that, made a lot of money. As with silver and gold, you know, Bitcoin, of course, has rallied back up 82%.
CNBC's Scott Wapner. It really does show you that this year, the old saying, sell in May and walk away, wouldn't have been a good idea unless you needed the money. You would have missed out on so many gains and record highs. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Palo Alto Networks, Trip.com, and Zoom Video. JP Morgan holds its investor day today. Shake Shack has a new CEO this morning. Rob Lynch, he used to be the CEO at Papa John's.
The impacts of a powerful storm in Texas still wreaking havoc on the state's biggest city. We'll have a report from Houston when America in the Morning returns on the other side of this. Power still out for many in the greater Houston area, but crews are making progress following storms last week that included flooding rains and 100-mile-per-hour hurricane-force winds that caused significant damage. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
as residents continue cleaning up the debris in hot, humid conditions, and some needing to find new homes. At least many are seeing their power restored. Cyprus resident Hallie O'Bannon.
It's been really crazy. Mother Nature definitely did its thing out here.
Harris County Commissioner Karen Heffernan was at a distribution center helping with immediate relief supplies.
You need access to ice, food, and water.
Cooling centers are still open for those without air conditioning, with a heat index making it feel like around 100 degrees. FEMA says it's establishing disaster relief programs to help pay for temporary housing and repairs. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Look for the Union label on Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy when you go to California's Disneyland. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports the costumed characters and parade performers have voted to join a labor union.
Disneyland performers who help bring Mickey Mouse, Cinderella, and other beloved characters to life at the Southern California resort chose to unionize following a 3-day vote. The association and cast members will discuss improvements to health and safety, wages, benefits, working conditions, and job security before meeting with Walt Disney Company representatives about negotiating the staff priorities into a contract. In recent years, Disney has faced allegations of not paying its Southern California workers a livable wage. Parade performers and character actors earn a base pay of $24.15 an hour, with premiums for different roles. The union already represents theatrical performers at Disney's Florida parks. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Monday, May 20th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. And this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up this half hour. The president of Iran presumed dead in a helicopter crash, and we'll have all the latest in the Middle East.
Reaction continued over the weekend about last week's chaos in a House committee meeting. I'm Pamela Furr.
Jesus is their savior, Donald Trump their candidate for president.
To reinstate godliness.
I'm Julie Walker.
An Illinois teen killed by a driver speeding 100 miles per hour above the speed limit. Bob Brown has details, and Rudy Giuliani's unwanted birthday gift.
The Webb Space Telescope has discovered the earliest known merger of black holes. I'm Ben Thomas.
Diddy admits to beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie, says he's sorry.
I take full responsibility.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Back after these messages. Getting closer and closer to summer as we hit late May, but some of us just can't shake those spring storms. Matt Rendy's with us. He's got your forecast.
Summer-like weather is going to cover a good portion of the Plain States into much of the east, with a few exceptions. Portions of Texas into Oklahoma will be well into the 90s and even 100s, with 80s and 90s extending through the rest of the region, and this will continue northeastward through the southern Great Lakes into the Tennessee Valley and northeast, where highs will be mostly in the mid and upper 80s. This will be anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees above average, but the influence of the cooler water near the coastal areas in the east will keep temperatures in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Once again, a storm moved out of the Rockies and produced another round of significant severe thunderstorms with damaging winds, hail, and even some tornadoes. Fortunately, the system, as it moves farther east today, will have fewer impacts through Missouri into Iowa, Illinois, and then northward to Wisconsin and Michigan. There can still be a heavier thunderstorm or two, but nothing like that which occurred on Sunday. However, we're looking at another storm moving out of the Rockies late tonight and into the day Tuesday, where severe thunderstorms can get underway in Nebraska early tonight and then reach into Wisconsin into Tuesday morning, with additional significant storms likely during the day Tuesday. Before that system reaches the plains, it'll produce some showers through the northern Rockies into Montana and Wyoming, and a thunderstorm or two farther south into Utah and Colorado. The air behind it will be chilly enough for some snow in the higher elevations. That cooler weather will also extend into Wyoming and portions of the Dakotas. The rest of the West will be largely dry, with a decent amount of sunshine and afternoon temperatures in the 60s and 70s in the north and warming into the 90s in the far south. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rendy.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Iranian president and his foreign minister are confirmed dead this morning in a helicopter crash. That, according to reports from the Islamic Republic state-run news agency, the Iranian Red Crescent reported that when they arrived on scene, the helicopter was significantly damaged and it was burned. The Iranian constitution mandates that in the case of the death of the president, the first vice president assume the role, but only with approval of Iran's supreme leader, who urged his nation to pray. President Biden was briefed by aides on the Iran crash, but administration officials haven't learned much more than what's being reported publicly by Iran state media. And reaction on Capitol Hill following last week's unprecedented chaos in a House hearing when 4 congresswomen went at each other. Correspondent Pamela Furr has details.
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification. Look, calm down. No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get clarification.
You're not recognized. Ms. Crockett.
I can't hear you with your yelling. Don't want calm down. No, can you please calm down? Don't tell me to calm down.
Well, you the one talking about. I
think your fake eyelashes
are messing up. No, if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body.
Those are the sounds from last week of 3 female House members slinging insults back and forth during a House committee meeting that was supposed to be about whether Attorney General Merrick Garland should be held in contempt of Congress. Eyelashes and bad built butch bodies are the only discussions seeming to come out of that raucous meeting. In fact, most of the Sunday TV talk shows had something to say about it, including former Democratic National Committee Chair Donna Brazile, advising Representative Jasmine Crockett on ABC's This Week.
Don't take debate. Just don't take debate.
Other lawmakers commenting too, like Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who tweeted, quote, "In the past, I've described the U.S. House as the Jerry Springer Show. Today, I'm apologizing to the Jerry Springer Show." Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez implying he was a bully after that text. Fetterman telling CNN's State of the Union.
Oh, well, of course, that's absurd. I was just simply responding to the kind of chaos and everything that Representative Green started.
Now, in the wake of the back and forth exchange last week, Congresswoman Crockett has announced the launch of a merchandise line featuring her now infamous comment,
"Bleach blonde, bad built butch body,"
with proceeds going towards ensuring a Democratic majority in the House. I'm Pamela Furr.
As Israel promises to eliminate Hamas in retaliation for the October 7th attacks in Israel, Israeli soldiers stand ready to advance into Rafah, where many Palestinians went to escape bloodshed. President Biden has said that he would not provide Israel with weapons needed to go into Rafah, and Republicans are going after the president for it.
October 7th was the bloodiest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. We want to make sure Israel has all the resources, no equivocation when it comes to eradicating Hamas.
Congresswoman Elise Stafanik was on Fox News Sunday.
The fact that he is withholding these very important defense resources to Israel at the time of team, you know what this is about, Shannon? This is about Joe Biden's beleaguered and failing polls in states like Michigan. There is desperation politically. Shame on Joe Biden. It is a betrayal.
Now, Democrats do see it a little differently.
There are 3 voting members of the Israeli War Cabinet. 2 out of the 3 agree with President Biden, not with Prime Minister Netanyahu. They want to see a governance alternative in north, central, and southern Gaza that actually extinguishes the political capital upon which Hamas relies.
Congressman Jake Auchincloss also joined Fox.
The reality is that the administration has approved more than 100 weapons transfers to Israel, and that Joe Biden is ironclad in his support.
President Biden did speak about the war while delivering the commencement speech over the weekend at Morehouse College. He called what's happening in Gaza heartbreaking.
It's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's why I've called for an immediate ceasefire. An immediate ceasefire to stop the fighting. Bring the hostages home.
In the wake of recent pro-Palestinian demonstrations on college campuses, the president told the graduating students that he supports peaceful, nonviolent protests. He said, quote, "Your voices should be heard, and I promise you I hear them." As far as the war and peace talks in the Middle East, hostages still very much at the center of those. Israel's President Isaac Herzog recently met with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to talk about ongoing efforts to see the return of the hostages. It's not clear if Rafah was talked about and what exactly may come next. With the 2024 election now less than 6 months away, Donald Trump's support among conservative Christians seems to be as solid as ever. despite indictments he faces and the criminal trial in New York City that continues this week. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
He's displayed that he knows where his strength comes from in those hard moments, being God.
Jesus is their savior, Donald Trump their candidate for president. Supporter Trey Mullins.
Who's coming back and will reinstate those values, will reinstate godliness in the office.
Trump's support from conservative Christians is as strong as ever, even with his divorce and trial in which Stormy Daniels testified to extramarital sex, which he denies.
There's virtually no debate this time about whether Trump is an appropriate candidate for someone who claims to be Christian, someone who claims to value morality and character and all the kinds of things that white evangelicals have always said they value.
Robert Jones is president of the Public Religion Research Institute.
So the glue, I think, connecting white evangelicals to Trump is less about abortion per se. It's more about a kind of ethno-religious vision of the country, right? And it is about being a white Christian nation.
But Trump's lead frustrates the minority of conservative evangelicals who see him as a poser and would-be authoritarian. I'm Julie Walker.
Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani celebrated a birthday over the weekend and received a gift he may not have been expecting. We'll tell you what when America in the Morning returns. Stay with us. A horrific two-car crash in the Chicago suburbs takes the life of a teenage high school athlete and left his girlfriend in critical condition. Bob Brown reports the teens were hit by a car speeding at over 130 miles per hour, a speed high enough to split the teen's car in half.
The life of a teen snuffed out in seconds, tragically killed in a high-speed crash in Glenview, Illinois, a Chicago suburb, late Sunday night over a week ago. 17-year-old Marco Niketic never had a chance when his Mercedes was smashed into two pieces by a speeding Mustang police say was clocked doing 131 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone on East Lake Avenue. Niketic was pronounced dead at the scene, his 16-year-old girlfriend critically injured. Police charging 21-year-old Northbrook teen Tai Young Kim with driving under the influence of alcohol and cannabis. He and a passenger are also hurt in the crash. WLS-TV in Chicago with reaction from the teen's family through their attorney.
I feel very horrible about this incident. They're sick. They're shell-shocked. Our condolences, obviously, their condolences, as well as Mr. Kim's condolences goes out to all the victims.
Meantime, a funeral for Marco Niketic was held on Thursday. The senior from Glenbrook South High School was about to graduate. I'm Bob Brown.
Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani celebrated his 80th birthday over the weekend, but one person in attendance showed up without an invitation. That person handed Giuliani a subpoena from the state of Arizona and an indictment that includes 17 other defendants following their investigation into alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results. The AP reporting that former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was also indicted, but Donald Trump was not. Arizona becomes the fourth state where allies of the former president have been charged with using false or unproven claims about voter fraud related to that election. Russia continues to gain more ground in eastern Ukraine as Kyiv launched a drone strike against a Russian naval port in the Black Sea. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the death toll of another Russian strike in northeastern Ukraine.
At least 10 people have been killed in Ukraine's war-ravaged northeast as Russia pushed ahead with its renewed offensive. Paramedics treat an injured man with a head wound from the Russian attack in Kharkiv. Resident Marina Inatova told the AP, "Everything fell on us immediately. We lay watching TV. All the windows, everything flew at us at once." Russia's Ministry of Defense said that its forces in the area were continuing to advance into what it called the depths of the enemy's defense. Ukraine's general staff said Russia had stepped up its attacks around Kharkiv and that the situation was dynamic. I'm Karen Shamas.
There was another discovery from the Webb telescope. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports on what scientists found.
Scientists reporting in monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society say the two consolidated just 740 million years after the universe forming Big Bang. One black hole is more than 50 million times more massive than our sun. The other is thought to be similar in size, but it's buried in dense gas, which makes it harder to measure. Until now, astronomers weren't sure how supermassive black holes got so big. The latest findings suggest mergers are how black holes can grow so rapidly, even at cosmic dawn. I'm Ben Thomas.
OpenAI has had a team in place keeping tabs on superintelligent systems since last July. Well, last week, the team broke up and most resigned. So who does that leave watching the virtual AI henhouse? Here's Chuck Palm with today's Tech News.
Several team members from OpenAI's super alignment team, responsible for developing the ways to govern and steer all super intelligent AI systems, has had several members, including their lead team members, resign this week. The team was led by Jan Leakey and OpenAI co-founder Ilya Sutskever, who left the company saying that they have disagreed with OpenAI's leadership about the company's core priorities for quite some time. The super alignment team responsible for developing ways to govern and steer super intelligent AI systems was promised 20% of the company's computer resources, according to a person familiar with the matter. The team's request for a fraction of that was often denied, and they were blocked from doing their work. Leakey posted a response on X saying that these problems are quite hard to get right, and he was concerned that they weren't on a trajectory to get there. OpenAI formed the super alignment team last July and said their work will be continued with loosely associated researchers embedded from throughout the company. Leave a comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
It's time for sports, brought to you by Untuck It. Spring is here. Go to untuckit.com or any one of their 80-plus stores and find the perfect fit for your spring wardrobe. Here's Robert Workman.
The Minnesota Timberwolves erased a 20-point deficit and defeated the defending NBA champion Nuggets in Denver 98-90 to win Game 7 and advance to the West Final. They used a 15-1 run to get close in the third quarter, then took the lead early in the fourth and never let go. Anthony Edwards led the charge.
Even though at halftime, even in the third, we was down 20, they just keep making runs. And it showed us who we are, man. Once we really lock in on the defensive end, man, we're a hell of a team to beat.
Game 1 of the West Final between the Wolves and the Mavericks is Wednesday in Minneapolis. The East Final starts tomorrow night in Boston. The Celtics will face the Indiana Pacers, who routed the Knicks 130-109 in their Game 7 in New York. The Pacers shot 67.1% from the floor. That's the best ever in an NBA playoff game. Golf's Xander Schauffele won the PGA Championship in Louisville, shooting a 6-under-65 in the final round to edge Bryson DeChambeau by one stroke for his first major crown. Schauffele's 21-under score of 263, the lowest ever in a major. Baseball, the Phillies flattened the Nationals 11-5. Alec Bohm with a bomb and 5 ribbies. Philadelphia with the best record in the majors at 34-14. Astros got 2 taters from Kyle Tucker as they mashed the Brewers. Tucker is now tied for the league lead with 15 homers. Orioles star Gunnar Henderson's 15th was his 5th leadoff blast of the season as they scuttled the Mariners.
Trying to make it happen organically. Every time I kind of think of it, it usually doesn't work out. But just trying to get up there and put a good swing on the ball, and fortunate enough to get it up in the air.
Yankees whipped the White Sox for their 7th consecutive victory. Red Sox romped over the Cardinals. Rafael Devers homered for the 5th game in a row, but it was the first of those that Boston won. Guardians thumped the Twins on Will Brennan's walk-off 3-run shot. Wins for the Padres, Dodgers, Mets, Pirates, Giants, and Diamondbacks, plus the Blue Jays, Royals, and Angels. That's Monday Sports.
The release of a brutal video prompts an admission from an embattled American rapper. We've got details when America in the Morning returns after this. Saying he was disgusted by his own actions, the rapper known as Diddy now admits to beating his ex-girlfriend after video of the incident surfaced, and now he's made his own apology video. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that.
Diddy admits to beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie, says he's sorry, and calls his actions inexcusable.
I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. disgusted.
That's Sean Diddy Combs, making a video statement on his Instagram, admitting that he beat his ex-girlfriend Cassie in a hotel hallway in 2016. A video of the hotel incident released by CNN on Friday shows Combs wearing only a white towel, punching and kicking Cassie, an R&B singer who was his protege and longtime girlfriend at the time.
I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
The footage also shows Combs shoving and dragging Cassie and throwing a vase in her direction. Cassie sued Combs in November over what she said was years of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. The suit was settled the next day, but spurred intense scrutiny of Combs, with several more lawsuits filed in the following months, along with a federal criminal sex trafficking investigation that led authorities to raid Combs' mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. I'm Haya Panjwani.
It was a softer than expected weekend at the box office. Kevin Carr has the details.
Imaginary friends conquered the apes at the box office this weekend.
Our kids grew up, so we need new ones.
John Krasinski's family film If was #1 with an estimated $35 million. That's lower than expected and signals a struggle in the long run for the $110 million budgeted original film. Too bad they couldn't sell tickets to those imaginary friends tagging along.
But now it is my kingdom.
Last week's ruler, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, dropped to #2 with $26 million, which is a respectable hold.
Hello?
At #3 was the slasher reboot The Strangers Chapter 1 with $12 million. Facing brutal reviews and a C Cinema score, this might fizzle fast, but it made back its budget and has 2 already shot sequels waiting in the wings.
Yeah, boy!
The 4th spot belonged to The Fall Guy with $8.5 million.
Unfortunately, my only skill in life is hitting a ball with a racket.
And then Challengers came in 5th with $3 million.
I want people to hear my voice.
Other new releases include the Amy Winehouse biopic Back to Black with $2.9 million for 6th, and the aviation documentary The Blue Angels in 9th with $1.3 million.
Furiosa fought the world.
And if you have young children, this would be a good time for them to leave the room.
Next week, we'll see if the Road Warriors and Fat Cats can duplicate the Barbenheimer effect with Garfuriosa. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Monday, May 20th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.